Where's the bag and coin? Let's see here. All right, drugs have been legalized in the state of Oklahoma for medicinal use. They've also been decriminalized. This is 19 pounds of marijuana, methamphetamine, cocaine, ecstasy. That is 25,000 in cash. No, that's 35,000 in cash. 1, 2, 3 pistols. 1 or 2 of those were stolen, and a shotgun and a flak jacket from a house right over here. The guy had several kids. Well, actually, the guy that got this from, I busted him selling dope out of the dorms about 10 years ago. He never left town. He moved over here, set up shop in the house, had a couple of sales reps around the school that sold for him and stuff. Very big operation. Now, the weed thing, with the decriminalization, if we catch somebody with weed, it's a $170 ticket. We write them a ticket, take their weed, put it in evidence, and we go on about our business. The problem I have with drugs is the business side of it. This guy's not out collecting for the Red Cross with those guns. All total, he got caught, this was all in the span of a month. He got caught trying to get on an airplane in Dallas with 35,000 cash. Back up, no, with 100,000 cash. Couldn't show receipts for it, so it got seized by the feds. Then the Postal Service seized the package. Went through the x-ray machine, had 35,000 cash in it. And then this, when they went and raided the house, all total within a month's time, he lost 170 grand to law enforcement for his drug operation. He was getting this stuff shipped in from San Francisco. People have kind of different thoughts about drugs, and I just don't want to get involved, or it's not that big of a deal. It is that big of a deal. 18 months ago, we had a kid, actually he was the stepson of an officer here. Clayton had a lot of problems with that kid his whole life growing up. He went over here to make a transaction, didn't live in Clayton anymore, but he went over here to make a transaction, 5 pounds of weed. The guys went to rob him. When the thing went sideways, they shot Clayton's stepson in the head over a pound of marijuana. The business side of it, regardless of what you think, I see the business side of it and the side that the bad guys run, and it is not a harmless crime. There's always going to be a violent element to it somewhere down the line. That was also over here by the middle school on 7th Street, 2 blocks south of here.
What do you guys do with them?
That's another one, 6th Street. Narcotics on that, the feds kept 100 grand. The postal inspectors kept the 35 grand, and Durant PD got a portion of that. They had to split it with the DA's office. They only went up to like 15 grand out of 35 because they had to divide it up. There's laws that say who gets a portion of what money out of the seizure. I can't remember how much this was, but this was a guy down here on 6th Street. Guns, money, and drugs. Primarily what we see up here, this kid was dealing weed at a Durant High School football game. He was down to his last baggie when we found him. Had that in his backpack too. Does that look real or fake? Is that a real one or not? How many says real? Come on now, let's get interactive, guys. Wake up. I know what's happening. It looks real. It has no orange tip, but it was a BB gun. Some kid pulled that on y'all. What would you do?
Real? Is this a real one?
Yes. You'll see several of those. Cocaine has started to make a little emergence around here. When the marijuana was legalized, the number one import crop for the cartels was weed and methamphetamine. When they legalized the weed and started growing it in the state of Oklahoma and Colorado for open sale, I mean, I'm sure you drive 10 miles around this town and you'll see a grow operation. Well, that cut into the cartel's revenue stream. They had to find something else to funnel into here to make money off of. So we started seeing an uptick in cocaine. Cocaine's expensive. Heroin. This was the floorboard of a stolen truck from grounds, not grounds, physical plant. Found a heroin needle. While the guy was trying to steal the truck, he decided to stop, take a break, and shoot up with some heroin right there in the truck. They take the powdered heroin, stick it in a spoon like that, suck it up into a needle. Of course, here's the other picture. They heat it up, it turns to liquid, you suck it up in a syringe, and you inject it. Thanks to the uptick in heroin we've seen around here, we all carry Narcan now. Y'all know what that is, Naloxone. Stuff you spray up your nose. We all carry that, have it in the car, and I carry it in the bag, I carry it with me in the vehicle. Heroin it can be nice powdery white like that to a little bit darker color. If y'all come across any powdered substance and you don't know what it is, don't touch it. I didn't put a picture in here, but what's the stuff I'm thinking of? The really bad stuff.
Black tar heroin?
No, it's a liquid. It's like a pin drop will kill you.
Oh, you're talking about fentanyl?
Fentanyl, yeah. That stuff's really bad. We've seen some of that around here too. You get it on a stamp or a pure liquid form. You don't want to even touch that. It's transdermal, it'll soak through your skin and get you that way. This was a room in Choctaw. The guy was set up in there. He had many different varieties. Made his pipes. These are field test kits. And of course his knife and his fake gun.
How much what year it was?
That year, I'll say that's maybe a year and a half, 2 years ago.
That's crazy. Wow.
These are just some examples. These are some examples of stuff that we have seen here. I don't want to, pull some stock photos. Every chance I get, I'm going to use real photos, but to let you know that yeah, it is here.
Yeah.
Wrapping papers, the little baggies. And if you see great Swisher Sweet wrappers for whatever reason, I love the smell of them. I love the smell of great Swisher Sweets, but that's the number one cigar wrapper we always find somewhere associated with marijuana. I'll come back to this at the end. Come on, say. Anybody know what I'll get to that in a second. Does everybody know what a marijuana plant looks like?
Oh.
Everybody know what a weed plant looks like?
I don't know.
That's a baby weed plant. That's a grown up weed plant. We had a kid had grow lights in his closet in his room in Shear Hall. Trying to grow his own plants in his dorm room. They put those grow lights put up a tremendous amount of heat. Started a little heat issue in there, almost burnt the building down. When you're doing your safety checks, looking for policy violations and stuff, keep your eyes peeled for this kind of stuff. The wrappers, the empty glass jars, little baggies, plants, if you don't know exactly what they are. Marijuana plant stinks to high heaven. He had the closet door sealed up too, to where heat couldn't escape. And yeah, it was bad. These, the Naloxone film, a lot of people are keeping these with them in case they overdose. Problem with that is, if you overdose, who's going to give you the Naloxone? Some more stuff, some scales, some torches, baggies with the weed in it, tin foil. We have found some really nifty devices. This guy had a deal look like a car muffler, and when you smoke your weed, you exhale in it, and it cleans the smell out of the smoke. He had to explain to me what it was, because I'd never seen anything like it before. But keep an eye out for these scales. Sometimes your primarily dealers will have these, but if you're a tightwad, money conscious, you're going to want to weigh out your product before you buy it from somebody. You're not going to take their word for, this is how much the weight is, and this is how much it is. Some people have scales. Dabs, wax. Is anybody familiar with any of that? Y'all ever seen that before? It's they extract the THC out of the plant. It looks a lot like earwax. You can stick it in a vape pen and smoke it.
Yeah.
But they extract the THC from the marijuana plant and make this waxy looking stuff. I've seen it from a earwax consistency to like a peanut butter consistency. Ecstasy. Ecstasy comes in many shapes and forms. You put the material in a pill press. You can have custom made pill presses to say whatever you want on them. I guess this one's their brand. Parts, regular pill shapes. This one here, the one on the bottom right, that one was put in a pill press to mimic looking like another type of drug, Xanax bars. It's supposed to look like a Xanax bar. But they come in all shapes and sizes. A Superman pill, I've seen them that look like Flintstone vitamins too. I got questions about that. Does anybody know what marijuana smells like? That's the number one thing around here. In 22 years, I found enough weed to fill this room to the ceiling. Because it's cheap. It's really cheap now that since medical legalization is happening. Something we've seen a big increase in the last 6 months or so is people coming up here and raiding the laundromat. I just decided to throw this in since you guys are going to have direct contact with the residents. He's a prime example. He was one of our big thieves up here, him and his brother. His brother got shipped off to prison for 10 years for a bunch of crimes he committed up here. He's still loose, but he was robbing a house, burglarizing a house right over here, and was wearing some of our clothing that he stole out of the dryers in the laundromat. These two people's kids had come in and done their laundry and left it. They come in, it's pouring down rain. They come in and dump their nasty smelling clothes out and steal all the clothes out of the dryer, which happened to be probably 3/4 of this boy and girl's clothes, all of her softball uniforms and softball
That
clothes.
was me.
Yeah, there they are.
There you go.
You never did that.
One time I literally had 4 shirts, and so my parents bought me 4.
Okay, so this is why we need to stay on the students. I went over there, we had another guy, I should have put that video on here. We had another guy Sunday Sunday, come in here and was digging around, and I went up there to check it out and make sure, because you can't see the change machine on the camera. Make sure he hadn't tried to break into it. And there was a load of clothes in the dryer, baskets sitting there. The load of clothes weren't even warm anymore. That who knows how many hours they've been sitting there. They weren't completely dry. So I mean, they've been left there forever. But these people, they come in and the video, I couldn't get the video to play because it requires a certain codec to play. But they come in, they change clothes into your clothes, and they walk out. She tries on a bunch of different stuff, and they leave. But we have seen a lot of that here lately. This guy in the
I
video,
don't know how many miles I had to run because my softball clothes were gone.
that's your fault.
I don't know.
Did you tell them that?
Tell
I told them. I showed
Tell
the
them,
video.
tell them to stay with their clothes or do their laundry in sheer hall. Or find a friend that's got wash and dry at their house. We're looking at options, maybe putting a key fob system on that door, setting it up to where it locks at night. But he, on the video, he is wigging out. He's cranked up on meth big time. He's bouncing all over the place. Coincidentally, right after they left here, they got over to 11th Street, 11th and Willow, got in an argument because he couldn't find his meth and accused her of smoking it all, and he stabbed her with a chainsaw file. Not like bad stabbed her, but just like
Still.
got stuck
How do
in
you
it.
not bad stab somebody with a? How do you not bad stab?
Chainsaw file. It's a little sharp, kind of like an ice pick.
Pretty much like Naker.
He got her about maybe that deep. And
Still,
I'm
that
sure,
counts.
I'm sure it didn't feel good, but if y'all were in there, did you see that pile of clothes that was on the table there? Remind kids to pick up all their clothes, because when they come there and see that pile of clothes, they come dig through it and just draws people like that. Tell them not to leave their stuff over there unattended. And above all, if they see people come in like that, let us know. Because not only were they responsible for that, I'm pretty sure he's the one that came back up here over the weekend and cut a catalytic converter off another car.
Ooh.
They're not keeping people in jail anymore, so.
What car do they drive?
Was it
They walk.
Okay.
Cause I saw someone here, I think they were trying to just dump trash, but I wasn't sure, cause as soon as the southeastern car pulled up by the laundromat, they jumped in their cars and they were like,
Oh, dumpster divers
What's it
are
on Liverpool?
thick up here. I really love it when they stare directly at the camera.
is that the one?
I mean, I did that all the time in the elevators.
Me too.
Sometimes I wave at it too.
But remind your residents, don't leave their stuff unattended over there, cause this summer, mainly, and probably the last 2 months of the semester, we saw a lot of that. And those people wind up being tied to other crimes up here, so. If we can cut down on those people's reasoning for being here, like going up to dig through the laundromat, they might just decide to steer clear here. It had been raining. We found those people later, and most of your clothes weren't in the bag, and you never would tell us where they were, but the stuff that was in there, it was mildewed really bad and stunk to high heaven. It was awful.
No, a little bit,
Did you want it back? Your uniforms weren't in there, but there was a Southeastern softball T-shirt he was wearing at the corner of
That was your thank you for the.
Third and Evergreen. He was wearing it while he was riding a bicycle that he stole.
I should have knocked him over.
That
would be so
Can you not put the clothes back?
I don't know if she wanted. I don't want that.
I got a story for you during break.
Uh-oh.
No, you You've heard that story.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm good.
You don't want to close back. All right. Who all's new? Welcome. My name's Captain Jody Hall. I've been here for 22 years. I originally started college here at Southeastern in 1994, so I've been here a minute. I'm not the type that likes to listen to myself talk, so if you want to read all that stuff, all that says is I've got a lot of really cool training, and I've been doing this for a really long time. Those two in the picture with me are my most proudest achievements. My oldest one is 20 now. He's not in the picture. He's in college here now. But that's pretty much me. All right. Active shooter event. All that is an attempted mass murder. There's no different. It's just a different terminology for it. In almost all of the active shooting events that have taken place in the United States, the attackers shared no real profile information. Some of them have an Avenger Mindset. Some broadcast their intentions. Remember that part. We'll circle back to it. There's a good clip at the end, and I'll give you the details on that. Some talk about it on social media. So if you see people making those comments, some of your residents or other students that you know, don't blow those off. Let us know so we can look into it, okay? The Avenger Mindset, they're wanting to get back at people, the public or specific individuals for some way that they perceive that they have been wrong. A lot of them share the same risk factors. They share history of violence in their family somewhere, or exposure to violence in their family somewhere. They have substance abuse or substance dependence issues, mental illness, or a history of suicidality. Some of the things that they have also shown in their past was stalking, harassing, or threatening behavior, negative family dynamics, negative family support system, isolation, or instability. And in all cases, other people have been concerned. Back in 2005, a student here by the name of D. Decker had every one of those factors figured in there. We frequently made contact with him at night while he was walking around campus. Very antisocial, just a very dark acting person. There had been a lot of vending machines burglarized around town. And one of the night shift guys contacts him, and he really hated it. But you're walking around at night, we're going to stop and visit with you, see what you're up to, make sure you're a student, because this is private property. And we'd all told him, look, we've done this 1,000 times. We'll pull up, say hi, we know who you are, but we're still gonna pull up and say hi. Hey, what's going on, what you up to? And the officer pulled up, hey, how's it going, how you doing tonight? Fine. As he turned around to walk away, he heard his backpack jingle really loud. He said, hey, hang on just a second. We've had a lot of vending machines burglarized. So the officer stops him, checks. He had like 10 or 15 pounds of quarters in his backpack. Had his drill, the drill bit that matched the drills that he was drilling out the vending machines with. They go up to see if they can recover, well, they did a search warrant for the room, go up see if they can recover any more of the money. Once inside, they found 3 pistols, 17 knives, and 1 50-round box of ammo over here in his room in Sure Home. He was been in contact, this was MySpace days. He had been in contact with some other people in Illinois, and they were planning to carry out active shootings. He had already bought the weapons. He was in the process of buying ammunition. The burglaries were to finance his plan. And he was captured. All the guns and money were seized. restitution was paid to, the vending machine stuff. But at the time, when we caught him in '05, there was no law on the books if you caught someone before they carried out an active shooter attack. If you caught them beforehand. So the judge, his hands were basically tied, gave him max sentencing on all of his burglaries. He served 5 years. 5 years and 1 month later, he is up here working for a contractor painting in the fine art building. So these people are out there, it can happen here. That's the number one thing I hear is it can't happen here. Well, it almost did. Fortunately, an observant night shift police officer caught it before it did. And it was just a fluke deal. He thought he was catching a burglar. So keep an eye out for that. Those behavior patterns, if you know anything, you become acquainted with these people, risk factors, kind of keep it in the back of your mind and pay attention to that kind of stuff. Location of attacks. You'll look there, you stand a higher chance of being attacked in the location, a commerce location, an outdoor venue, malls, Walmart, stuff like that. Your chances of being a victim are higher there than they are at an educational facility or an outdoor facility combined. Other consists of churches and things of that nature. The newest thing we've seen is the active attack or, okay, guns are expensive, right? Do we have any gun people in here? Like hunting? Anybody like to hunt? Anybody into firearms? Guns are expensive. And contrary to popular belief, background checks work. Okay? But, as you can see back there on the fender, for just $19.95 a day, you can go down to your local Home Depot or U-Haul and rent a pickup, and you've got a 3,500-pound weapon. We've seen several instances of this in New York, California. People are on the fence about whether the one in Stillwater several years ago was an active attack. The lady that drove through the homecoming parade in the Camaro. $19, you can go rent a pickup and drive through a crowd. I don't know if y'all pay attention at our homecomings and our football games because of the way it's set up, the tailgate alley. Steubenville Chevrolet and some of the car dealerships, the Ford House will bring vehicles up here to put on display. And the way we park those in the road on each side, with them staggered, that's by design. Those vehicles are to create a barricade between where the people are and the street. Average response time in the United States, once the call comes in of an active shooter, is 2 minutes. Now obviously, if you live in a rural area like Bennington and Boca Chico or Silo, one of these small towns that may not have a law enforcement presence, it's going to be a little bit longer. But in most of our larger cities like Durant and anything bigger, your average response time is 2 minutes. They credit training with that increase. It used to be 3 minutes. Now the average response time from time of call to time of arrival is 2 minutes. From call time to exchanging gunfire with the bad guys now 3 minutes. I want you to keep that 3 minute window. That's another thing I want you to put a pin in. The number of deaths depend on how quickly the police arrive and target availability. Target availability is something that you are solely responsible for. It's the one thing that you can do to help yourself. Try to eliminate yourself as a target and limit their ability to get to you. Three stages of disaster response are denial, deliberation, and the decisive moment. Everybody knows that person that when you say, well, hey, I think that's something, oh, no, it's not. Right? Everybody knows that person that doesn't want to believe it. You got to get past that denial stage. My favorite example is people hear gunshots. Oh, that's fireworks. Well, is it 4th of July? No. How, have anybody in here ever heard fireworks go off, somebody pop firecrackers in the student union? It's not something that you would commonly have. It's a higher probability that if you hear that, it's gonna be a gunshot than it is fireworks. Now on the 4th of July, especially if you've ever worked in law enforcement, every firework going off, people think is a gunshot. Every other day of the year, they think gunshots are fireworks. Your brain has two sides. The human brain, when we're sitting here in an environment like this, we're relaxed. You have a rational thinking brain. You stop and you can think about stuff and work out those problems in your mind because you've got plenty of time. Now, in a disaster situation, your lizard brain kicks in. Fight or flight. That's a term that everybody else is more familiar with, correct? These videos are a better, more accurate representation. We're going to watch this one a couple of times. This is a grocery store shooting happened over in England. Shooting breaks out in the front of the store. A guy walks through the front door with an AK-47. Something to keep in mind. A couple of things here. Anybody see the lady with the baby in the stroller? Baby looks about 8 months old. How many times in that 8 months do you think that lady has taken that child out of that stroller or out of the car seat? A lot, right? Under stress, tasks that seem very simple can become very difficult because of the way your brain is reacting to that stress. Another thing, you see this guy here take off around the corner. It's an example of what's called social proofing. We'll get into that in a minute, but this is a good example of that. Once this guy sees the exit sign and takes off out the exit sign, others see what he does and follows his example. In your role at the school, students will begin to recognize you as a person of authority, a figure that you listen to, someone who's been here and may know more than they do. Whether it's a verbal communication or them just seeing you do something, they're going to follow your lead. We'll get into this a little bit deeper here in a second. But number one, watch the lady trying to remove her child from the stroller and watch how people follow that guy as he goes around and out. Not this older gentleman right here. I'm talking about the one that goes around behind that pillar. He's not very courteous in the circumstances. He knocks the old man down. But something as simple as undoing a couple of buckles on that stroller become very difficult. But you see those people, see that guy go out that way and they follow his lead and follow him. And she struggled for quite a bit with that stroller getting that child out. Is anybody familiar with the Station nightclub? Are y'all awake? Did I eat too much pizza? We need to do some jumping jacks.
I'm trying to read it, but my eyes are not.
Okay, the Station nightclub, there was a band called Great White playing there that night. Is anybody familiar with old 80s, early 90s rock music? Okay, band Great White was playing here. You can see the exits marked here with the 2, the 3, the 1, and the 4. There were 4 total exits in this building that people could get out of. During the performance of Great White, a fire occurred thanks to a pyrotechnic display the band had. They didn't account for the height of the ceiling and the flammable insulation on the ceiling. I will warn you guys that this video can be disturbing to some. If If anyone has a problem with that, feel free to step outside, no judgment. It's not extremely graphic, but it is kind of disturbing to some people. What's the sound?
It's on this, on this recording.
Band starts to play. And this device starts shooting sparks into the air, catching the ceiling on fire. Most people are in denial. This fire is just part of the show. They're in denial. Once they realize, hey, this isn't part of the show, and something isn't right, then they started trying to figure out, what do I do now? Fire breaks out, people think it's just part of the show because the machine was throwing the sparks into the air. It's not something uncommon that you wouldn't see at any other concert, but they didn't take into account the flammable insulation up on the ceiling of the building. So as you can see, it takes people about 30 seconds, the numbers that flash on the screen. It takes them about 30 seconds to realize, okay, this isn't part of the show, something's not right here. Then they start trying to figure out, what am I going to do now? Well, most people had been there before, or most people that had been there before knew where the exits were. Some people had never been there before, they were just fans of the band Great White, decided to go see the concert. The only exit they knew was the front door that they came in. The mark, can anybody see the numbers on the screen real good? How about you guys in the back?
I see okay.
Well, 31 people started to fall, there was pushing. People started to fall, crowd stacked up. After the fire had burnt for a minute, minute and a half, that flammable insulation creates a dark, thick black smoke, which you cannot see through. People are having to go kind of by feel, since they can't go by sight. They kind of know where the front door is, but as people started to fall and get stuck, 31 people stacked up right here inside the front door. People going by feel or thinking which general direction the front door was. They were onto something, but there's no exit right here. 18 people stacked up and died right there from smoke inhalation. 9 were standing right here, panicked, didn't know which way to go. 3 over here. Y'all all know which, how the exit signs are mounted up by the ceiling, by fire code. Once the smoke fills up that far down from the ceiling, can you see those exit signs? They were on the right track. Common sense would tell you that if you go back this way, there should be an exit back here, right? Most people would think that there's got to be an exit back here, which usually is a pretty sound theory. In this case, it wasn't. 10 died here, 9 there, 2, 1, 1, 3 died in the restrooms, and 1 died on the dance floor. All total, 100 people died in this fire. Tell y'all this because something as simple as when you walk into a building, take a second, look around, figure out where your exits are. If it's someplace you've never been, just stop and take a second, look around, see where the exits are. I mean, typically, we go to Walmart all the time. How many times have y'all stopped and looked to see where the exits are? Wake up. Places that you go all the time, it's not very difficult. Make a circle around the outside edge, like say, we'll use Walmart for an example. When you go in, go by the deli, go down to the meat section of the dairy, look for all the exit signs and figure out where they are. Some of those, doors go back to the storage areas. There's 2 or 3 exits once you go through that one single door. Go around and map these things out, because something as simple as paying attention to those would have saved a lot of these people's lives. They could have bypassed that front door and went out this bar exit over here. The exit by the stage was a viable exit for about the first minute and a half when the fire first started, but after a little bit, it wasn't viable anymore. Eventually, they did start. There were windows in the front. Someone was able to bust some of those windows out, but the smoke was toxic, and they couldn't get those people out fast enough. As you walk through these buildings up here, and you go to class, pay attention to where the stairwells are and the exterior doors. Just kind of stop and test yourself. Okay, right now, right here, something bad was to happen. Which way would I go? What would I do if it happened right here? And then, once you get that figured out, say, okay, the bad thing's going on down here. That's my exit strategy. What's my alternate exit strategy if I go back this way? You come up with these plans when the fight or flight mechanism kicks in, and you've drilled yourself on these, you scripted them in your head. Your body and your mind will draw on those scripted plans as options of what to do in the fight or flight mode. Does that make sense? When you're deciding what to do, calm yourself. Take deep breaths. Shift your emotions. Most people get scared. Shift your emotion to one of anger. What is a more useful emotion? Fear or anger? Get mad. I'm not going to go out like this. This person ain't going to get me. Get mad about it. It helps you be able to stay focused longer. Because once people have been exposed to enough stress, your body starts to shut down. Your heart rate, your blood pressure goes up, you get tunnel vision. If you get mad, get angry, it helps you stay focused longer. Stay fit. That was a term in one of the focus groups that threw people off. They saw that term, stay fit, and they're like, well, I'm not going to go to the gym. This is stupid. I'm not going to do this. That's not what we're talking about here. Stay fit. Take the stairs. Park across the street and walk over here to class. Just get a little bit of exercise. That's going to serve 2 purposes. Taking those stairs will familiarize you with the stair layout in these buildings that you're going in and out of. Like the stairwell down here on the first floor. When you get to the bottom of it, you can go through a door that comes into the building, or you can take the side door that goes to the outside. Taking the stairs and familiarizing yourself with those things is something that your body is going to be able to draw on in an emergency situation. Script it in your head. Stop and take a minute. It doesn't take long. But just you catch yourself out at these businesses, especially the ones you frequent. Say, a lot of kids go to the casino. Stop and take a second, figure out what you can do, and script those things in your mind. And then start trying to see what hurdles or anything might get in your way, any obstacles you might face, and script how you're going to deal with that as you go on. And then practice it. So you're getting out of class, you're leaving class, take those routes that you scripted in your mind. Take the stairs, take the elevator, go around the outside of the building. Because, as I said, when you script these things, the kids that are going to come to know you as people to look up to and people that they're looking to for answers, they're going to be around you in these situations, and they're going to follow your example. And when they see you acting, they're going to act. They're going to follow your example. sheep will hate that. Okay, when you start, where we at? Want to take a break? Want to take a break? It's me, yes. No?
Let's finish this.
Alright, we'll go for a little bit longer. Okay. Deliberation. Deliberation is when you get past the denial stage and you're fully aware, hey, something bad is happening. What am I gonna do? You have three choices. You can avoid the whole situation, run from it. You can deny them access to your location or hide. Or you can defend yourself and fight. Run, hide, fight. Avoid, deny, defend. Okay, this is the example I was talking about broadcasting, about these people broadcasting their plans to do stuff. This is a school board meeting down in Northwest Florida. This guy's wife had been laid off, and for a month prior, he had been saying, I'm gonna go shoot up a school board meeting. Posting about it on social media, posting pictures of the date of the school board meeting on his calendar, circled in red ink. Talk about it, talk about it, talk about it. No one took it seriously. Then he shows up at the school board meeting.
And from the technology, you'll notice it's on the chart that you got there, and it's part of the planning we have in the workshop we're gonna have following this meeting, but this will be the first step in that whole process.
Oh, that hissing noise
Everybody in this room.
is him painting V for Vendetta on the wall. Okay, up until this point, at what point, say you're sitting in this audience like these ladies here, at what point would you go, something's not right here? Something's not right here, I'm out. Right? These ladies sit here, and the school board members sit there in denial. They think, what's this crazy guy? And he pulls a gun out of his pocket and starts flagging it around. This is another takeaway. He tells all the innocent civilians to get out. Okay? The thing about a person like this, they're not mentally stable. Alright? Don't gather your stuff. You got a backpack. You got a purse. Leave it there. Get up and go. Try to take your phone, but if it's not convenient, don't waste any time, because yeah, 1 second he's saying, hey, y'all get out of here. The next second he's thinking, hey, they're gonna call the cops and snitch me off. I better smoke them before they get out of the room. Get up and go. Don't waste any time. The obvious sign is when he started painting on the wall. The lady under the desk. I will tell you this, most things in modern construction are not bulletproof. Hiding under a desk is not a good solution. It conceals view of you, but it's not a bullet deterrent.
John, just let him talk. He's talking. John, go ahead.
He's mad because they fired his wife. Guys, she was home free. She got out. She could have been long gone. She decides to do the Wile E. Coyote cartoon thing and go back in and whack this guy with her purse.
A purse.
Unless that purse is full of bricks or something, that is not a, no. immobility. When you're so overcome by fear that your body just shuts down, you fall down to the ground. In one valiant effort, in her mind, I'm gonna whack this guy with my purse. I've seen it in the cartoons 100 times, it's gonna work. She goes up, whacks the guy with her purse, he turns around with a gun, and she wilts and falls to the floor. Paralyzed with fear and can't move. He doesn't do anything to her. But unless that purse is full of bricks, no.
She said, maybe I'll just have
And for the technology
He's
to
lucky,
those
that's all he said, and it is.
sharpers you have there, and it's part of the plan we have in the workshop, we're gonna have following this meeting, but, this will be the first step in that whole process.
I have a motion to that.
Oh, they did.
Everybody, what's he doing?
That's why they were all still sitting there that entire time.
See this guy back here?
See that ball went down the road?
You see that guy? The minute he saw that gun come out of the pocket, he was out.
Yeah, the road, the green, like, as soon as she saw it, she was on the ground.
Yeah. Watch people's reaction time.
She did grab her husband.
Yes.
I know what happened.
Hey, sir.
That girl caught her down there.
Tom.
Then you said,
Tom, John, go ahead.
she said, I got her man. That's all I
He said, get out of here.
Go grab it.
Okay. After this, he gets down in front of the school board guys, telling them how sorry they are for not hiring his wife back. God forbid he get out and get a job, but he gets down there. This guy broadcast for 30 days. The school took no precautions. They had an unarmed security guard there. He comes in, confronts the guy. He says, "Hey man, is that a gun you got there?" On the other video, you can hear it. He's like, "Yep, sure is." And he leaves. He goes out to his truck, gets his gun, and comes back in. Well, right before he comes back in, the bad guy starts cracking off rounds into the podium there, the big desk. Misses everybody. Doesn't hit a single person. The security guy comes back in. They exchange some gunfire. Bad guy gets hit a couple of times, goes to the ground, and shoots himself. But there were red flags from the get-go. From the first time he posted on social media, there were red flags, and everyone blew them off. It is very fortunate that no one lost their life in this deal.
And for the tech.
Okay, you know something bad's happening. You choose to avoid it. Leave, get out ASAP. Pay attention to your exits. Know where they are from your scripting. As soon as you get out and get clear, call 911. Preferably do not stop inside the building and call 911. Wait till you get out and get yourself to safety. This is the same grocery store as the earlier video. That guy in the car wasn't even in the store. He sees a guy walk up to the front door with an AK and pull it out, and he's gone. Some people didn't catch that, so we'll watch it one more time. Something's not right. Leave. People in the store, as he's racking around into that AK, they're running out the door. They're getting away. Okay, you're gonna try to avoid the attacker, avoid violence, avoid what's going on. Consider secondary exits. Say you find yourself in a closet or in a room. Consider any other exits. In here, this is a storeroom at the back of that store. This was in a convenience store. For some reason, the exit door was locked. What are some things that you could do in this room? Speak up. Huh? On the ladder? What else?
I was garbage can over there.
Here, get feedback for your dad's cut.
What you got prizes, badges? Hey.
But it's the garbage bag over there, so you can hide it. That is horrible.
Okay, if you try that door, if you can't get out that door, get up on the roof. Typically, you can jump off the roof of a one-story building and you'll be perfectly fine. Your ankles may hurt, but.
Catch a wood.
Also, these racks, anything you can do to limit their access to your location, the better. While you're trying to figure out what your next step is, you need to start moving racks and putting stuff in front of the door. Say in this room, that situation breaks out, I would want every one of these tables against those two doors right now. All the tables, all the chairs. Try to lock the doors. Some of the doors around here, you have the ability to lock them where they don't have access from the back. Lock the doors, turn the lights out, keep out of sight. Barricade the door. Remember, the heavier the better, the more the better. Using door stops is also good. If it's an inward opening door, if you look around most of the classrooms and rooms you go into around here, there's going to be one of those wooden door stops. Stick it under the door. If it's an inward opening door, stick it under there and kick it really hard, and they won't be able to get the door open. Another one is called the tactical cinch. Almost all the classrooms around here have a computer of some sort. Start ripping cords out of the wall. Wrap them around the door handle. If you're not in there by yourself, pick the biggest person you have in the room with you. Wrap it around that door handle and have them squat down and lean back and pull on it. You can also, if you're tall enough, grab a chair, wrap the cord around that scissor joint up there at the top. If you come all the way down to this end, loop the cord around that, is it gonna open? Stand on a table and wrap that scissor joint with a cord from the computer. Use that stuff for barricades, we've already talked about that. Door stops. There was an example, we were doing breaching and entry stuff in active shooter class during high school, and there were 8 guys stacked up hitting the front door of the high school, and there was a team went ahead of them. Someone kicked the door stop as they went in last time, and the way it spun around, 8 guys were hitting the front door, and they all stacked up like train cars when they hit it. The rubber door stop actually stopped the weight of all those guys from coming through that door. It's not something that you would think would work, but I've actually seen it because I was the front guy on the entry team that day, and I had 7 people climb into me. Deny them access to your location. Figure out inward, outward opening doors, or anything you can barricade the access point with. Positioning. Think about where you want to be on the doors. We've got 2 doors in this room. You want to be close. You don't want to get over here away from the door, because distance is not your friend in this situation. You want to try to stay close to the door. That way when they come in, you can grab the gun. Fight them. Try to get the gun away from them. Shift your motions to throw them off balance. What's a weapon?
What's the one?
Anything. Ink pens, staplers.
Spray in their eyes, they can't see.
A lot of people get squeamish when I tell them this one. That right there. Stick that thumb in their eye socket. Their eye socket will take the path of least resistance. You get squeamish, but I'm serious. How's it go? Is he gonna be focused on shooting people? When he's popping his eyeball out? No. Stick a thumb in the eye socket. That totally changes all their plans immediately. Sometimes it'll pop out, sometimes it won't. People go, "Ooh, that's gross." No, it's not. The human body's 98.6 degrees. Stick your thumb in your mouth, that's about what it feels like.
Have you done it before?
No, but I know people who have. That was the way they described it. It's like, man, it's like something on your thumb. Everything's a weapon. Guys, I need you to realize that in a situation like this is life and death. I mean, I try to be kind of lighthearted about this stuff, but this is a life and death situation. There's no fair play. Rules go out the window. I mean, you're fighting for your life. Grab the gun. If you're familiar with firearms, use it on them. Fight. Everything's a weapon. There's a phrase a guy used. He said, "I came into this world kicking and screaming and covered in somebody's blood, and I had no problem going out that way." And it's you or them. You gotta have that mindset when things go bad. All right. Defend or fight. This guy is in that same grocery store. He's kind of caught in an awkward position. Back here in the back, right above that number 10, which is camera 10, that's that exit. The bad guy's right over here. So he's kind of in a bad spot. There's a front door right here. The back door exit's over there, and the gunman is up here by the counter. It's kind of close to the front door. At that point, he's got a 50-50 chance of what he can do. What's a weapon? Everything. So he grabs an improvised weapon, and he's going to go try to make a break for it. See the guy laying on the floor? This is a fine example of tonic mobility. See, these people must stack up down here at the end of the hallway. They see that guy run. They see him go around the corner. They follow his example. That's called social proofing. People don't know what to do or how to act. They look to each other for clues of what to do. They see that guy take off in there and he doesn't come back. Hey, maybe that's a good exit. So they all follow his example. Tonic mobility. People are wired differently. Some people become so overcome with fear, and the fear response triggers in some people faster. Now, obviously, the stress from fear will build on some people, kind of like I mentioned earlier. That's why you need to figure out what to do and do it. Don't spend a lot of time, because at the same time when your heart rate's increasing, you're starting to get that tunnel vision. Eventually, your body's going to shut down once you're exposed to too much stress. This guy is an example of that. You can try to fight it, but some people are just wired that way. There's nothing they can do about it. His immediate response was to hit the ground. He made it, got back up, but then he went right back down on the ground. While everybody else ran away. Well, that's another element to this. Guys, you can't help everybody. Okay? If you've got a plan and you're going to go. If people want to go with you, let them go with you. If they don't wait for them. That is a waste of valuable time. They may have their own plan that they've come up with, and hopefully that works out for them. But once you've made a plan and you've practiced it, scripted it in your mind, you've practiced it, you've taken those routes out of your classroom, and you know it works, use it. They may have done the same thing with just a different outcome. If they want to use it, that's fine. But don't wait on people. Don't try to get them to go with you. Don't beg and plead. Just go, do your thing, get yourself out. But those are three fine examples. Find an improvised weapon. A bottle full of wine is a lot heavier than an empty bottle, makes a good club. Look around, see what everybody else is doing, see who's got a plan that looks like it's gonna work, do it quickly, and get out. And that's another example of tonic mobility. Depending on your field of study, field of training, another place where you might have heard about tonic immobility is in rape victims. Them saying, well, when it happened, I couldn't move, I froze. That's what that's called. Some people become so overcome by fear when they're being assaulted that they can't physically move, they can't do anything. It's just the body's natural response to trauma and stress in some people. This is Lieutenant Brian Murphy. He responded to the Sikh temple. He was shot 14 times. Power of will. He was shot all to pieces. He told himself. He got angry. He told himself, I'm not going out in the parking lot. I'm not going out like this. I'm not going to let my wife down. I'm not going to let my daughter down. Not letting my stepkids down. He got down behind his car and returned fire to backup units around. He was the first guy there and exchanged gunfire with the bad guys. Unfortunately, they kind of got the drop on him. He survived. It's another important rule of thumb here. Shot doesn't mean dead. Anybody deer hunt in here? You know why deer run away after you shoot them? Because they don't watch TV. Shot does not mean dead. The statistic is somewhere around between 94 and 95%. 94, 95% of the people who get shot in this country don't die. Okay? That's in the movies. Shot doesn't mean dead. Don't give up. What you do matters. Barricading yourself, limiting your availability as a target. That helps buy you time until law enforcement arrives. Which again, like we talked about at the very first, is around 2 minutes from the time we call to the time we get there. 2 minutes. Now that might seem like 2 hours in the middle of a traumatic event. But 2 minutes is all you gotta look for around here, probably less than that. Is all the time you gotta buy until we get there and distract their attention to us. Okay, again, once the attack starts, look for your primary exits. Where's the easiest exit from the point I'm at right now? If you have a primary exit or a quick, easy way to get out, away from the danger, take it and avoid it altogether. If you don't, barricade up in a room and deny them access to your location. Once you've denied them access to your location, look for other exits. Say we're in this building and this is a classroom on the first floor. Once you barricaded those doors, bust the window out. Your primary focus is getting out of that building. Once you look for secondary exits, if you find one, get out and avoid the situation. Okay, if you're stuck in this room and you can't get out, get ready to defend yourself. Start looking for weapons, something to use in the event that person does gain access to the room. Don't limit yourself to windows and doors. Familiarize yourself with the construction of the buildings you're in class in. Now, some of them are concrete, some of them are metal, some of them are wood. This building, for example, you've got those doors locked. Control lock on the wall there. Beat on it. Good.
Get it real good?
Hit it real good. Okay. The only thing between there and the outside is 2 pieces of sheetrock and a metal stud. You find the hole between the studs or start kicking a hole in it. You can go from room to room in this building, or several of these buildings. You can go from room to room by kicking holes in the doors, or holes in the wall. Cheer, yeah, that's yeah. Take a look around. This one, sheer hall, like say, for example, in Liz's office. You can kick a hole in that wall and come out in the frost chambers and come and hit that back hallway. Or once you get in the frost chambers, you can go to the student government office, student senate office, and go out that way. If that person is trying to still get into, say, Liz's office, you're already over in the frost chambers with a couple of kicks to the sheetrock. Don't limit yourself and limit your thinking on how to get out of a building. Don't limit it just to windows. Look for secondary options. Okay, when the police arrive, follow their commands. Do what we say. I need you to remember that the guys that are going to be responding have just driven there as fast as their vehicles will possibly go. They're going to be wound up on a little bit of adrenaline, a little stress going on themselves. And training. When we show up and we get out of the car, we're looking at people's hands. You do a quick assessment, hands and face, judging reactions, checking hands for empty hands. Empty hands means no weapon. When you encounter law enforcement, we're probably going to be talking loud and yelling. Keep your hands visible. Don't move. If you have what we call actionable intel, you know where the guy is, you saw them, you know what they're wearing, tell the officers. That way they know what to look for. If you know where he's at, that's even better. Pass along any valuable information you have about what's going on to those guys so they can get in there and stop what's going on. Our primary focus when we show up is to stop the killing. To stop the killing, we have to proceed immediately to the bad guy. We go to the sound of gunfire and we neutralize that threat. After we neutralize that threat, second primary focus is to stop the dying. We go and we apply tourniquets, we apply bandages, we do quick field triage, and we assess who's in the worst shape and who has the highest likelihood of survival and kind of prioritize everybody. Now, we will start evacuating the injured. This hasn't been updated since the new alert program, the Advanced Law Enforcement Rapid Response Program went into effect. When we did those training simulations out during high school, we rolled an ambulance up to the back, and from time of call till we slammed the doors on the ambulance, hauling people out was 9 minutes. Time of call, guys showed up, made a quick plan, hit the front door, tracked the bad guy down, neutralized him, did a quick triage of the injured, had an ambulance back up to the door. We loaded 11 patients on one ambulance. Ambulance protocols go out the window at that point in time too. Right now, it's on a typical situation, a car wreck or something, it's one patient per ambulance. What we're looking for is the fastest way to move the most people to get them to the hospital, because bad situation, the only thing that's going to fix a bullet wound is an operating room. So the quickest we can get people out of there, the better. Another important point, we teach in alert that you show up at a scene, and in the case of like Virginia Tech, the guy had taken chains and locked the doors. When your officers on scene are showing up and they find those doors locked, they're going to get on the radio and they're going to give instructions, next unit up, put it through the front door. We're going to take and run a unit through the front door. We're going to make a big, huge hole inside that building so we can put as many people in there as we possibly can. So as you're exiting these buildings, kind of slow down, look real quick, and make sure there's no cars incoming, okay? I am supposed to be going to the Stop the Bleed training. I will be able to put that training on for you guys. Does anybody know how to apply tourniquets in here? Okay. Are you RA? No? We will be doing field dressing, training on tourniquets, and we'll be putting that training on after I go to the alert conference. Use the tourniquets, most people think once you put a tourniquet on, you're gonna lose that limb. You can't stay on for very long. Application of a tourniquet you can leave a tourniquet on for up to 10 hours and there's no lasting damage. You have to release pressure every so often, but you can wear a tourniquet up to 10 hours. In these cases, if you'll notice, I haven't named a single one of these people, except the guy we caught over here, but he didn't care about anything. Don't name them in these bad situations. When you hear these stories of these shootings happening, say you're talking about it, don't say their name then either. Because that's what they're looking for. They're looking for fame. In their mind, doing these things is going to make them famous. Don't repeat their names, don't give them any attention. If you're going to give anybody attention, give attention to the victims. Average response time is 2 minutes. Remember that, 2 minutes. 98% of the shootings nationally have been one person. That has created the evolution in the training. 2% of the active shooters in the United States were 2 people, and in both instances, those 2 people were found together. What the old method was once you took out the one guy, you searched and cleared the whole entire rest of the building to make sure there wasn't a second one. And statistically, they were wasting our time. And the one where there were 2 shooters, they were good. So now the training has been upgraded to where your second, third teams that arrive to go in after the shooter, they're gonna have medics. By the time they get there, fire trucks and EMS is gonna be there. We're gonna be taking in medics with us. Start treating patients as we come to them. 50% of the active shooters situations they end prior to law enforcement's arrival. They start out with some big grandiose idea in their mind that they're gonna go in there and be the biggest, baddest person on the block, and when things don't pan out, they commit suicide, kill themselves, whatever. The other 50%, they end right after law enforcement arrives. 11% out of that 50 commit suicide. Only 3% surrender. 10% of these active shooting suspects were subdued by the people in the building. You know, people who've been prepared at the door, ready to defend their location. Guy comes through the door, they were able to get the gun away from him, hold him down, and subdue him until law enforcement arrived. 26% decided to engage in a shootout with law enforcement, and they didn't win. National average of all the shootings that have taken place, on average 4 people were shot and only 2 died. Remember, when we show up, we need actionable intel, stuff that we can take action on. We don't have to sit around. If y'all see or know what that person, who it is, what they were wearing, the quicker we can get that information out to the guys that are in there, the quicker we can resolve the situation. How many people would be interested in taking that critical care training? There was a lady out here north of town had an accident with her lawnmower, and her neighbor had fortunately had that tourniquet training, and it was a pretty bad deal. Something happened. She was opening a gate, left her mower running, and he cut her foot off. And her neighbor had that training, was able to apply a tourniquet and save her life. So it's not just for something like this. There's lots of different things. I mean, my kids have been, Connor's 20, 10 and 12. There have been lots of times that they've been hurt that I've used some of that training. It's good to have, especially if you're rolled up on a car wreck. It's just good to know. Remember, you're responsible for you. You're responsible for you. You've got 2 minutes. Once you have come to the realization something bad is happening, you try to avoid it and get out. If you can't avoid it, deny them access to your location. Once you deny deny them access to where you're at, get ready to defend yourself. Does anybody have any questions? No? Come on, somebody don't have a question.
I have the video.
What video?
People still in my clothes.
I've got the videos on here.
I wouldn't play with it.
No. Can you play it on that?
But they were still in your clothes?
Oh,
Yeah, they stole it, you missed it.
What?
They stole Amberlin's clothes.
Oh, like in your room?
No.
They were your clothes? Oh, not in her room.
No, I know, I told her more.
Well, I didn't know they were Amberlin's.
Huh?
Soft ones. Really?
Yeah.
Did they like feel bad for making you rent?
No, they still don't care. I don't know.
Work is going in.
All we can do is scan. Oh, here we go.
Can you watch this video photo? Wait, is it funny? Oh.
Oh, at least he's holding the door for her.
Aw, that's sweet.
Yeah.
I mean, he's sour, so it's good, but it's not good for like kids too.
No, mine were in the dryer.
Now, let's just
The
stuff
first
people
dryer
left in
to the
there.
right.
How much do we want about these people coming to
Oh,
work
she
and
did
taking
it.
whole crap out of stuff?
She's looking at
She's
me.
like shopping with my clothes though.
She said,
She
is
said
it
it's
my
exciting,
size?
yeah.
She really did check the
Yep.
size.
They're just shopping. What y'all? It's
She said,
judgmental
it's
for.
so good.
Incredible.
Imagine getting your clothes turned down by a
Yeah.
Yeah, the girl said, that's not for me. I don't like that.
There's my dryer he's about to go through.
Oh, he's scratching his butt.
I'm positive.
Oh, did you just throw them out? Like, did you ever get them back or did it still
Hey,
out?
we pulled the call records on them because they get called on all the time. They would never tell us where they were staying, so we went to all the places that they were known to stay and still didn't find out where their hidey hole was.
Is that them stealing your clothes?
Yeah, that's
These are
my,
like
that's my clothes right there. He's going.
No, they're like
She's taking
homeless
a
methamphetamine addict.
She's watching like crazy.
She's like, these people come into Burke's all the time and pop the tags and sensors off clothes and stuff them in their like bras and leave. Every day.
Oh, look, she's getting ready. She's gonna swap them out, is she? Oh, that's so nice.
Did she? She swapped them out.
At least she traded.
I wish I brought the Spider-Man video from yesterday.
The what?
This guy, next time you go into or by the laundromat, there's a bush right there on the
Yeah.
left side by the door. Like he's sneaking down the side of the building, they're walking around the sidewalk, and he jumps out onto the sidewalk like, ha, you know, at the front door. It's hilarious. But he goes in and noses around and walks out and leaves. But he stood there by the door, scoping out to see if anybody was watching him before he walked out.
She's sleepy.
She's hanging on the banana. He's snatching
Are
her
these
clothes.
people, do you think they're high right now? Because they're
Oh, yeah,
acting
he's-
kinda.
He's
There's no way he's not.
he's either jonesing or he's had some.
Okay. Because he's like.
That's your underwear?
No, that
Oh.
ain't
No,
my clothes are hanging out of the dryer.
Wait, so they swapped them out with their clothes?
Most of that
I
stuff
didn't
is.
just because that's whatever was on the.
Y'all remember that part back in the spring when it rained for like 40 days and nights?
Yeah.
That's when this was going on.
Sad.
Everything they owned was soaked wet in those backpacks and mildew. It smelled awful.
Maybe he was just trying to dry them.
I see your shirt. Hanging out, your loose off of
Yeah,
your
like my shirt hanging out of the dryer.
She got yelled at for.
That I had to run
Did you
about
show
5
your-
miles for.
Did you show your coach this video?
Look, there goes my clothes right into a bag.
That's crazy.
Coach Bobby, get on to you for this?
It was my assistant coach. He was out for his surgery.
Yeah, did you show
Courtney?
them this video?
You showed her this video?
Wait, this was like a couple
And then
months
maybe
ago.
run still?
Huh?
This was like
Yeah,
a couple months ago?
this is her
This was in
clothes.
May.
This was like when I was about to turn in my.
I thought this was like last year.
No, this was May.
This
Look
is
at my clothes.
clothes.
Why did that?
They look familiar to me.
That's pretty.
Wait, you still had to run? You didn't start-
She's literally.
This is a little sus.
It's the same one.
drop the hood.
Just this one time.
They have bags. Why did they shove it in?
They literally just took all of my clothes.
Their bags are already stuffed full of other stuff.
Wait, why are they in the bag in the dryer?
They put their dirty clothes in the dryer.
That's just
Wait, they left them and then they left their dirty.
They left their dirty clothes in there.
They traded her. They were
No,
there.
my clothes were in the right dryer, then he just
That's
took
so
all of
gross.
them.
Did they clean out the dryer?
He didn't put anything back in my dryer.
No. You probably used that one
Yeah.
too.
Oh.
I just drive home. I'd rather spend money on gas. Sorry.
I'm about to buy my own laundry.
Luggage.
Oh, is this still recording?
I don't know.
Sick.
If anybody needs a laundry machine after seeing this.
Oh, he also said after this, they got this like
Last I knew,
Like with a knife?
last I knew, there
No,
chainsaw.
chainsaw file.
Chainsaw.
Last time I saw them, they were still together.
Oh my god. After the stabbing? What? Oh my
I mean,
What a
stabbing
bonding
your
experience.
significant other is a really bonding.
It's just going to be
It's a bonding experience.
He was arrested for that, but I don't think, the charges stuck because she wouldn't testify against him.
Oh my.
Abuses.
Stop.
She had his bag.
You think goals?
Yeah.
He knew
She didn't testify.
he knew where to get the meth and she didn't, so.
Ride or die.
He probably died.
Probably die.
That shit
On.
Was this 3 in the morning?
Yep, 3:44 a.m.
Why were you washing clothes that late?
James got off work at 4, so he was gonna go pick up my clothes at 4 because I put in them right around like 12ish, and then.
Wasn't it 4?
15 minutes.
Imagine if he would have like 15 minutes.
Yeah, if you would've got there 15
Because I was waiting, I was gonna put them in there, so right when James got off, they were ready.
Why do you just do it early today?
Oh, they,
Because I had softball practice
She
and
was in
everything else.
softball though.
Are you really victim blaming the girl that like got all her?
during
I don't see where
the
I
cold
went.
spell, the bad cold storm, there was a guy came in here and pulled clothes out and like stripped down right there and put them on.
Do we have that video?
He had like 2 pairs of girls' yoga pants on underneath his jeans.
He was so cold.
Well, too bad.
That's
People that asked for my clothes, I would give them to them. They didn't have to go steal them.
Do you think that they were like, yo, wear those clothes? You think like,
Yeah, I had 3 bags of clothes I was giving away.
Oh, okay.
You did?
They stole the clothes before.
No, but you're gonna start sitting in your room.
Like, never done that.
I told him, I said, dude, I've got you on video taking the stuff. Where's it at? We just want the clothes back. Let her do it. I believe it though. I think it's sorry, here.
I don't know what the run looks like.
They have like the black hair.
Yeah.
Pants that I got in trouble for.
Those are?
Probably.
That's Bonnie and Clyde right there.
Modern day.
I had 2 of my softball practice shirts in there, 4 of my practice softball shorts, and then my travel gear, and they took it off.
Oh, good. I'm glad she read the boys.
She's got the bra too.
Good.
Hey, bro, this is a name, right? Right?
I think that was my travel jacket.
I think those are Lululemon. Anybody else see that tag?
Speaking of which, you're not getting locked door. What do you call that with the little scan that you have?
I was saying, she's
She has pictures out there. That is in the
It was
works.
during school.
Oh, so is it?
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Like I was washing my clothes to be able to take them to the softball the next day to
Oh,
turn
return
in.
it. Oh, so it was like the last.
Oh, so.
It was like the one day before she's like,
And
okay,
they're
I got
carrying
this,
some
I got
poor
it
little
done.
kid's bike they stole.
Poor child. Stop the child.
So how often do you get videos like this?
All the time.
Okay, wait,
I will
I
never
All
put my
you
clothes
people
there
that break
again.
that
can you
broke the
please
rules.
just share with the class why they don't want their clothes back?
Huh?
Can you please just show
He-
us the
he
file?
scratched his butt.
He was like, I have a story.
Those
but
people
why
hadn't
don't-
had a bath in ages.
No.
Yeah, I don't know that
If you would just
that
let
nastiness
that.
would wash
So
out.
they have their softball units. Oh, she's wearing
Yeah.
underwear
My
right
underwear.
now.
A bunch of them. They called me and said, hey, we picked him up. He stabbed her over here. And I said, okay. So I said, I need to check their property at the jail to see if any of this clothing's in there. And we get down there and start going through, and we found the file that he stabbed her with. Then we start pulling this stuff out, and it had been wet in his backpack, and mold and mildew had started to grow. And the light colored clothing was stained with the mildew. And
With no longer
yeah,
that color.
oh my God.
That's fine.
But just remember,
I just ran
they
it
have
out.
videos of everything. If you ever did anything in the halls, they have videos of it.
Yeah.
Right.
Oh, that brings me to my next point. Since the last time we did training, we've got these body cameras, and I don't know, I would like to look for the best in people, but, and didn't think you'd have this issue around here, but I've gotten 3 complaints on officers so far, and they come in and tell these wild, outlandish stories, and then you go pull the video, and nothing even remotely like that happened. So when we go to calls in the dorms, and y'all go with the guys, or girl, Tasha, we're gonna have cameras on. Usually, when we walk up to the door, we're gonna go like this to remind y'all. So there's no dirty language and stuff like that. But just remember, regardless of what the people in the room do, try to be
And we
professional.
don't have to stand there like this
Because-
as they're walking out the door anymore.
I've had,
We don't have to stand there like this as they're walking out the
No.
door. That's so
I
awkward.
mean, you can, but whatever y'all's protocol is, we're gonna have video of it too. I had this lady come in, this one was just 2 weeks ago. She comes in with a guy, with her, and he's special needs, and she said, I mean, on a tear, your officers arrest my guy, and they yelled at him, and they did this, and blah, 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 and just on and on and on. And he's like, yeah, that's what happened. And I said, and she said, it happened over here. It happened over here by this house. And I was like, all right, hang on just a minute. And I go pull the video, and the officer gets a call that, hey, there's this guy over here wandering around in my yard. And the officer says, okay, I'll head over there to check it out. Well, he walks out the front door of the office, and there he is in the front parking lot of our office. And he walks up to him, hey, buddy, what's going on tonight? Oh, I'm just walking home from the hospital, walking through here playing Pokemon, because this is the Pokemon hotspot. He's like, yeah, I know, my daughter comes up here and plays Pokemon. He said, you just got out of the hospital? He's like, yeah, I was up there. He says, well, where's your shoes? And he says, oh, I didn't have any shoes.
Pokemon.
Whatever. Listen, you're not my intern anymore, it's not your job to babysit. But, it was Danny, and Danny says, well, man, where do you live? And he says, I live over on the east side of town. And he says, well, you know, that's kind of out of our jurisdiction, or I give you a ride home. And he says, oh, no, that's fine. He said, I like to play Pokemon when I walk home. And he says, okay. And Danny says, hey, you have a good night. Hope you get feeling better. Guy walks away, turns video on. And I walked up there and I said, man, that story you just told me is not anywhere even remotely near what you just said. And that guy started ducking his head like this. And I thought, oh, you're the people that be Facebook famous. We had another
So
one.
nice and sweet too.
We had another one, a lady did the same thing, come in there and cussed me and the chief out. And I went and pulled the body cam video, found out where she lived, burned a DVD, took it to the house to let her and her son view it, and she wouldn't answer the door. I said,
I would've left it in
ma'am,
the
I got a
box."
copy of that video, just to ease your mind, I got a copy of the video from our officers encountered with your child, and, wanted to watch it with you, cause it's not entirely accurate, and, she slammed the door.
Oh.
You should have left it in the
I went,
box.
well, I went
This
by
is
there,
yours.
I went by there twice, and, I said, ma'am, I just, give you another opportunity to watch the video, and, she slammed the door on me again.
Oh my
So-
goodness.
How does she get arrested for slamming doors?
The audacity. How dare
Listen,
you?
we have a hard enough time having meth addicts, have them keep them in the jail. Guys, have any questions? We're gonna, most likely those of you new folks, we're gonna be working with y'all alongside a lot. Do y'all know, who in here's been familiar with any of the officers?
I know.
Danny?
Yeah.
Since the last time, Matt started here in December, Russell came back to work for us in January, maybe? No, Russell came back in December, Matt started a little bit earlier than that, and then Danny started in May. We've got a real good group of folks over there. Everybody that works in the office now has a college age kid at home. So they understand, most of them have kids in college. Matt's stepkids are in college. But, they have a pretty good understanding of the stuff kids go through, and they're pretty laid back as far as that goes.
This is the Southeastern Police phone number, if you wanna add it to your phones.
If y'all don't have that in your phone, please put it in there. Well,
Huh?
okay.
Heart hurts really bad.
Yeah, is it, no problem.
That number goes directly to the officer's cell phone. Whoever's working, at whatever particular time you need to call, they're gonna have that cell phone on them. That 745 number rings to our dispatch office. When there's no dispatcher there, that phone is forwarded to that cell phone. But in the past, we've had power flashes, and the phone system goes dead, and when it comes back on, the phone's not forwarded anymore. We have to periodically check that. So your best bet is to call that cell phone number. And as y'all start working together and calling, the guy will store y'all's phone numbers in the cell phone. That way we know who's calling and when and all that good stuff. Questions, comments, concerns?
Have any questions for us? Give us a pop quiz.
Drugs are.
Bad.
Okay. You know, with the change in the drug laws, a lot of people feel compelled to, I don't wanna get involved, or I don't wanna say anything. Unfortunately, in y'all's role, you kinda have to, because drugs are still federally illegal, and if it is found that we are turning a blind eye to that kinda stuff, we could lose the university's federal funding. So, realistically, with Oklahoma's drug laws, we show up, write them a ticket, all drug possession is misdemeanor. It's a $170 ticket, which typically will be, deferred. They won't even have to pay the fine, they get kind of like probation for it. But, we need to go over there and deal with it, check it out, handle things, because several times in the past, when we go over to these rooms like this, we find stolen property, or we'll find guns and other, things. We had a guy several years ago living in Choctaw, and we get an odor of marijuana complaint from his room, go in there, and I find a Foot Locker and a TV. Foot Locker's full of cell phones and iPads, laptops. He had been trading people a bag of weed for a cell phone, and a little bit bigger bag of weed for a laptop. And he would take this stuff back home to Fort Worth on the weekends, and had a fence down there that would sell it for him. And when he came back on Sunday night, he would bring this same Foot Locker back with 2 or 3 gallon bags of marijuana, and that was his business. You know, you'll find most of these people, most mommy and daddies will give you money for food, books, whatever you need, but most moms and dads aren't gonna give you money for your drug habit, so you gotta come up with weed money somehow. And, you know, I told the guy one day, like, why didn't you ask one of your friends? I'm sure one of your buddies would have helped you out rather than having to go steal something. Now you're getting kicked out of dorms and kicked out of school and all this stuff. Well, it's kind of embarrassing. I didn't want to have to go ask one of my buddies for weed money. I said, yeah, well, now look where you're at. There's other options besides going and stealing. The kicker to that is most of the time they steal this stuff from kids who are doing good financially to even be in college. Who couldn't afford it otherwise. And that's the part that I hate the most, is when they steal stuff. Football player got all of his books stolen. The kid took them back to the bookstore, sold them off for $35, went blue $35 on weed. And fortunately, these were like molecular biology books, and this kid was majoring in basket weaving, so when he sold that combination of books back, it was suspicious. And the bookstore sold the victim back the books for the $35, not the original cost. I mean, otherwise, he would have been out having to buy new books. Also, this kid and 2 of his buddies could get high. It's the business side of it that I hate the most. Is what people do to get it, and the dangerous stuff that sometimes happens just as a side effect of it. So, see something, say something. Smell something, say something. Also, has anybody in here ever met anyone who's allergic to marijuana?
I am. Isn't that so fun? Hey.
Me too. It's a curse. Chief Cook calls me the human drug dog.
Well, when you're allergic to something, you like smell it strong.
Yes.
It's like,
Yes.
On the 3rd floor.
It is.
Does it close your lungs up?
no, it makes me have a massive migraine, but if I get like in contact with a vapor, I'm like,
Yeah.
like possible.
I have asthma attack type reaction if I get around the smoke with it. And it's
Is it just the smoke, or is it like the actual plant? Like, could
Smelling
you
it?
eat it, or is
smelling it, I am.
eat it?
I was just gonna test.
Well, I'm just
Yeah.
saying, like, what, like, I wanna know, like, what,
When
you know?
my cousin Megan used to work at a CBD shop,
Yeah.
and she had a vial, and she's like, yeah, sure, there's something outside of it. Highs.
Really?
Immediately.
So it's like the actual plant?
Yeah.
I think that makes sense.
Well, you know, like most
It's
people have
just
a reaction to like bitter weed and
grass.
Or
stuff.
like grass.
It's like way worse.
Huh.
Yeah,
I
it's
didn't know
awful.
it was like, so it's
But-
like anything that has to do with the plant?
I'm hypersensitive to the smell. If I smell it, my nose instantly starts running. It's
Does the plant itself smell like the smoke does?
pretty close. How long have you worked here and you've never smelled marijuana?
No, I smelled like the smoke, but I've never smelled like
Guys,
the smoke.
that's how you know someone hasn't been making the rounds.
Oh no, ever since I had, the pandemic, my nose is shot, so. We're talking about. Am I mean, like, I've never smelled like the actual, like healthy, alive plant. Like, I've smelled the.
It's yeah, that's what it smells like, but it's more robust.
Okay. So when you like burn,
Stronger,
dry and
yeah.
stuff, okay.
My grandpa, he has his card. He's not doing anything.
Yes, okay.
know that they're high, it's
Oh my
crazy.
God.
Oh,
yeah.
Or
That's my
they'll
first
go out,
shot.
they'll go out in the hot box in their car, and then they'll come in the building without realizing the smell is permeated in
No
their
matter
clothes.
who
It
sprays.
follows them everywhere they go.
Literally.
Like, it's a little suspicious,
Because
but
it
there's
doesn't
like
come out.
tons of
It doesn't
perfume on. Like, we know. I can tell. People think we're dumb, but.
Isn't there like an oil that marijuana has? That's what I thought.
CBD,
Is that what it
CBD?
is?
Well, there's THC and CBD. THC is stuff that gets you high, CBD is the stuff that relaxes you.
So if you like squeeze it, that's where you get the THC. Oh,
Squeeze
nobody.
it.
Has anybody here made pot? Cause I have.
Squeeze it. No.
How do you make pot?
Well, you get your clay and you throw it on the wheel.
We do have like a narcotics thing that we do sometimes.
You do narcotics?
You do narcotics?
We do narcotics sometimes. No.
Yeah.
No. I know you're not about to. Do you just smell it? Do you just?
Oh, yeah, you weren't here for that.
Yeah.
He quit and went to work for emergency management.
He did?
Yeah. Asked, I called and asked Billy, I said, Billy, where's your training tool, that suitcase thing? And he
Yeah.
said, I don't know. So,
That kind of sucks.
Yeah.
Richard, I think Richard actually purchased that himself. He found it at a garage sale.
Really?
And
Like
he
the.
bought it himself,
all
so
the
it's
drugs?
his to take. Well, they were simulated. They
Oh,
were
okay.
Oh.
I garage that for $5.
Deal.
That, yeah.
Guys, I get off
Variety
work in 7 minutes. Any other questions?
Yes, sir.
Hey, Morgan.
If y'all need anything, call us.
Okay.